Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Hello and welcome to episode 184 of On the Bench, the podcast for scale modelers by scale modelers, all about scale models. And this episode is being brought to you by our two latest Patreon supporters, Rob V and Ollie Brody. Gents, your stickers are in the mail and hopefully you should receive them not much after the time this episode drops. Of course, everybody else can help support the show just like Rob and Ollie. Simply go to www.patreon.com/onthebench and pledge any amount from as little as $1 per month upwards, and your contributions help with production and hosting costs of this podcast. And just a huge thank you out there to all of our other Patreon supporters. We really appreciate your continued support. So I've got a great show lined up for you today, but before we get to that, let's hear a word from our great sponsor, Scott from the Scale Model Supplies.
Hi, I'm Scott, the creator and owner of the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's largest manufacturer of hobby paints. Our premium airbrush-ready acrylic lacquer paints are designed specifically for use on plastics, with a comprehensive range covering all popular modelling subjects including military, aircraft, rail, auto, sci-fi and more. And not only that, but we also have a wide selection of essential hobby tools and now, Infinite Colour, our new range of water-based paints for miniatures. So to check out our range and to find your closest retailer, please visit our website at scalemodeler.com.au. So when quality matters, choose SMS Paints.
Hello and welcome to the show, and in the studio I have with me Ian.
G'day Dave, g'day Julian, g'day listeners.
And of course got Julian.
Yep, I'm here.
How are we, gentlemen?
Very good, thank you.
How have you been?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Tired?
Well, yes, tired because I just can't bring myself to go to bed at a reasonable time, and then I have to get up early to come over here and have breakfast.
What a hardship!
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
But also because we had that bloody had a few hot days earlier in the week. And
they were
and
brutal.
last weekend.
They were full.
It wasn't so much the hot day as the hot night.
Yeah.
Because it was just constant. Yeah. Constant, like 29 degrees Celsius all the way through the night.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sleep with the air conditioner on. That's a bit too much.
No, it wasn't. It was great.
I slept with the cooling system on all night.
Nah, I wasn't going to do that. That's extravagance to me.
Well, I can afford to be extravagant. I don't care.
Yeah, comes down to comfort.
It's exactly right. We're in the 21st century, so why should you live in discomfort?
Well, in any case, I did. And my sleep, sort of was like, because I can't because I'm up late at night and I feel like the temperature dropping off as it gets to night, and as it goes to night, it's like, it feels about time to go to sleep now. When it gets to a certain temperature, but that time never came, and it got to like bloody 6 a.m. Like, damn, I completely mucked up here.
That's very true.
Well, we got quite a few things to talk about. We've got a fantastic guest later on the show, Chris from the Model Airplane Maker. We're really excited to have him on the show. First of all, and obviously we've got to talk about the 48-hour build. We'll touch on that later on, which Ian did a fantastic job of. But first and foremost, I've got to update everybody on the Possum Wars.
Oh, yes.
So, as you all have seen, I posted on our On Your Bench Facebook page the designs I'd gone to. So my back fence looks like something out of Mad Max now to stop the possums coming in. So my back boundary fence runs north-south. So I'll put up all these fantastic defences.
Yeah, you tell them a mortem jave.
And it was interesting because the night after I sort of put them up, I put this up during the day, and then that night there was an assault. So from the northern end of the boundary, there was one reconnaissance scout from the possum army. And then I looked south, and there was a reconnaissance in force with 2 of them coming along trying to get across, and nothing happened. The defences held, so I was absolutely wrapped. So it looked like I had actually won the war. And then
Little did you know it was only a battle.
Well, and 2 nights ago, they must have brought sappers in, because I looked on the fence, and inside the defences was this one darn possum sitting on the fence looking at me.
Just mocking you.
Just mocking me. So they've obviously brought a sapper force in to sort of overcome the defences. So where I'm at now, we are now in autumn or fall, and the leaves are starting to fall off the trees anyway. So I've reached the decision now. I'm going to electronic warfare, and I'm buying an electric fence. And I will be installing that during the winter, all in preparation for their spring offensive.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. The battle will be won.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to have a quick chat about is all the fantastic emails we got from people for the Falcon and his leaving. And there's so many people who wrote in and said on the Facebook page how they were gutted that the Falcon had sort of moved on, but how much they're going to miss him. But
everyone will miss him.
Oh yeah, including us as well.
Yeah.
But, it was really, really nice to see and heartwarming to see everybody sort of writing in and thanking him for all his hard work and everything he's done over the time.
Totally agree.
And there's always an open mic. And one person actually wrote, well, now that he's gone, are we going to do like they did and reveal the Stig? And I thought, no, we'll keep him in his...
No one can replace the Falcon.
But we'll keep him hidden. We won't...
we'll never reveal who it is.
You can't pull back the curtain, otherwise all the magic's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, very good point, Julian. Yeah, exactly right.
Very true.
So let's get on to another subject which we need to talk about, and that's the Moosearoo Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julian, tell us about the Moosearoo Cup.
I mentioned on the Moosearoo page, but there was a lot of problems with the kit, and then there were my own problems on top of that, and it just came to too many. The thing about if I'd done this model in military style, with flat coats, camouflage and stuff, I could have just put in the time and got it done. No matter how late I was in the game doing it, I could have just taken days off work if I had to and gotten it done somehow, right? I probably wouldn't need to take days off work, but I'm just putting the point out there that I could have done it. But when you're dealing with gloss, there is drying times that take 24 hours at minimum, and there's no way around that.
Yeah.
And when you've got problems like that, and you're down to like within a day or two of the deadline, there is no finishing it. I resorted to, for example, using the a.k.a. gauzy agent as a brush on clear, and it worked on the cab. It just worked. It looked fine. It looked nice and glossy. It had some imperfections where it had like some kind of runs and things like that. But who cares? I mean, it's an improvised last minute fix, and it had issues with it like that are acceptable. It's a trade-off. But the problem was when I masked it up with liquid mask so that I could spray the chrome on like various little features on the front of the cab, like the grille, around the headlights, things like that. When I then went to peel that off, it took the clear coat with it.
So the clear coat didn't adhere.
It adhered fine for what it was. It's not meant for that sort of work.
Right.
The product itself is meant for canopy dipping. And that's just how it is, It's I did what I could in the time that I had left, and sure, I could have. You could say, well, maybe you should have started it earlier, Julian, which is probably what Chris Meddings would say.
He was the first to finish. He finished like 8 months ago. 9 months ago.
He said, I don't want to be like TJ or something like that. I believe he said to me.
He finished.
Well, TJ finished this year because remember
Yeah.
he was did not finish with the Gundam build
Yes.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, like that's a legitimate argument, but I still wouldn't. I would still have absolutely loathed. Like this kit was just absolutely morale destroying for me.
So to talk about what style were you going for when you built it?
So what I was going for was like a baby blue glossy sort of 50s Americana style camper van type truck, you know. So I'd actually like scratch built a full like living compartment part of it on the back of it. That part was actually fine. I did the construction went fine. I used the what do you call it, the silhouette cutter. I cut out. I drew up some designs for the windows, and I had cut them out and stuck them on out of sheet styrene. So I learned how to do that. Thanks to Chris Meddings for his little thing on the settings, what you need for the machine, so that it will do that. Worked just fine. All the problems came when I had to paint that blue finish, and for a start, like I didn't have the color that I wanted in any of the paints I would have preferred, so I had to use the Gunz Aqueous, which is the stuff that you're most comfortable using, and stuff that has been around here in Melbourne for quite a long time.
So you would use the sky blue.
Yeah, but the problem is when you go to put like a full lacquer gloss coat over the top of it, it melts it.
Yeah, I know, and I know, which I will discuss later when I get to talk about the 48-hour build.
Okay.
So if you just spray it on lightly, it's fine. What happens is when you do an automotive finish and you lay it on thick, right? It completely unsettles that paint layer beneath it, and depending on where the curvatures and things like that on your model, it'll recede from those areas and it'll reveal what's beneath it. Is that what happened to you?
Exactly.
You don't have this problem if you're spraying it on top of a full lacquer paint.
Yeah.
So if you're spraying it over Mr. Color instead of Mr. Hobby, or if you're spraying it over SMS paint or MRP, right? Gaia notes, any of those, you'll be fine. You'll be completely fine. You can go forward with full confidence. It's only when you're spraying on that stuff.
Yes.
Also, like Vallejo acrylics and stuff like that are probably impervious to it.
Yeah.
This issue anyway. That's basically... And to be honest, I even expected this to happen to some degree, and I was trying to be careful not to let it happen, and it still happened.
Still happened, yeah.
Well, I could see how crash, because you actually brought the cab along to our model club, and as you were showing it, you looked around and you went, "What the hell?" Because you could see, and then on the side there, you could see where it was doing.
No. That was where I'd forgotten I'd put like liquid mask down.
Yeah. Okay.
Liquid mask, and like I've gotten used to liquid mask now, and that was a learning point on that kit as well. So nowadays I'm not going to just slather liquid mask on wherever. I will actually tape off the area in which you drop the liquid mask, so it's got like here's a defined edge to where you've applied the liquid mask.
Right. Okay.
So now I can actually get under it and peel it off without touching anything below it.
Yeah. Sure. So as a result of that, you decided to feed the well of tears.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not like I couldn't have just sort of put everything together and then pretended that it was a good kit, right? And with, what you can hide in photos and Photoshop and things like that, I could have gotten it across to the finish line and no one would be any the wiser, but that's dishonest. I'm not about that. I was not happy in the slightest. I was like, just looking at this thing was rage-inducing. It really was.
And with anything that we build, I mean, again, even doing the Moosearoo Cup, it's supposed to be fun. And if you're not having fun and enjoying yourself, why stick bamboo things under your
even if I just
fingernails.
talk about just the wheels, right? So
Yeah.
I painted these wheels blue, right? Then I brush painted the black onto the tires, and I'm thinking, and so it's a wheel, 2-wheel halves, and a hub.
Yep.
I had problems with the construction at the beginning because there's a spare wheel, and the spare wheel has a different hub center, right? That's obvious. What's not obvious is that the wheel itself is different. And then, so like the spare wheel doesn't have a hole through the middle, and the other ones do. And it seems like that's the only difference, but it's not quite. So you can drill a hole as a sort of fix, but it's not quite there because now you've got like a spare wheel that has a hole in it where it shouldn't.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yep.
And then the hub part that goes in the center, maybe that fits tightly if you're just painting it military style, but when you got gloss coats and stuff on, there's enough build up there. Things don't want to go together. And then only once I'd cut these off because I painted them up on the sprue, clipped them off, and they were ready to go on. And then I noticed, hang on, there's an ejector pin mark in the middle of it, and it's a different height on every one of these hubs.
Oh.
What am I supposed to do then? Am I supposed to strip these things?
Nah.
Like what? Like it's so small. It's like the width of a needle.
Oh God.
And it's one of those. So on different ones, it's a different height, and it's like this little thing that sticks up. It's like, come on,
man.
And then like the hub itself is like a round thing, and it's got like this sort of square thing that sticks out of one side of
like
it,
a peg, yeah.
Like sort of. It's like a bar that sort of goes all the way to the center of the wheel, and this fits in a notch on the wheel itself, right? But that won't fit in there. I had to clip them off because they wouldn't fit into their cavity when I go to put them in the wheel.
Yep.
It's just endless, and stupid things like it doesn't have any pegs or markings on the chassis when you go to put all the various bits and pieces on it. No, it makes you measure them out with a ruler.
Yep.
Amongst so many other various things.
Soul-destroying items.
I had to like drill holes because like axles wouldn't fit through the balancer, I guess you would call it. You know how like so you got like at the rear wheels you've got like the front one and the front set and the rear set, and they and there's like a bar so it auto levels itself no matter what terrain it's on, right? Like a large leaf spring, and you've got one mounted at the front, one mounted at the rear. And this whole thing has a shaft that runs through it so that it can seesaw back and forth. Wouldn't go through the hole. You drill the hole out, there's not much material left, so you better glue it properly the first time and make sure it's all in alignment.
Otherwise you're in big trouble.
And the positions at which you glue those brackets on to the chassis, they're not parallel. So now you've got all of your rear wheels in misalignment.
Off skew, Oh, it'd be annoying.
And it was just, ball breaking stuff like this the entire way through.
Oh man, I really feel for you.
Yep.
Like,
but and a couple of the other guys have mentioned that the difficulties they'd had with the kit. I know Samo wasn't happy with it. TJ certainly wasn't pleased building it, but
the sentiment that I got was that a lot of people had a very similar experience, and I think I made it more difficult for myself because I went for the whole gloss thing. It just compounded like the difficulties of the kit.
And do you think because you're up against a clock too, that was another contributing factor?
Like the way, if I'd done a Chris Meddings and aimed to get it done within the first month, I think I still would have needed the entire amount of time, given how many issues there were, and I would have had to like strip and repaint things probably 2 times.
Yes.
Over the course of the build, everything, at some point.
Well, Julian,
did I tell you about the gravelly texture that was on it?
No.
Like, so it was almost like the kit was designed to be made out of cast steel as an effect. Like when you buy a Sherman kit, it's got like the big cast upper hull.
Yeah.
And some kits will do the texturing on it, and other people will put on the texturing using the whole apply Mr. Surfacer and stipple it on with a brush. to get that cast texture.
Yeah.
It was like that out of the box.
Oh, that real pebbly finish.
Yes. Not conducive to a glossy automotive finish. So I had to sand every bit of that tiny little cab just to get things flat enough to paint.
Well, Julian, Ian and I still love you, and don't forget you have been a past winner of the Moosearoo Cup, so you do have some laurels to rest on.
That's it. Dave's the only one.
Well, I'm up next year.
Well, if you want, I can do this because I don't feel happy about this. If you want, I'll do the next one as well.
I think that seems like a fair deal.
Oh, that's going to put me back another year.
That's all right. I think that's a very fair deal. All right, done.
Okay.
I'm in the US for the Nationals, so hopefully I'll be picking up the kit there and bringing it back with me.
Okay.
Oh, and when you're there, you got to pick me up a coaster from the PPP.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Because mine's worn out.
Okay. You hear that, Kentucky Dave and Mike?
Yep.
Ian needs a new coaster.
Yeah, mine's worn out.
And I know that...
worn out from beers or whiskies or
Yes,
pretty much.
All the above.
All the above.
coffees? No, not coffee.
No coffees.
Before we move off the subject of Moosearoo Cup, we got to thank the guys from Canada for supplying.
Absolutely,
Hamilton Hobbies.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to. This kit was given to me. I didn't buy this with my own. I don't mind throwing away kits that I bought. That's on me. But I just couldn't do what needed to be done this time.
You had to take the tough choice.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes up next year.
Nah, I mean, a lot of it is my own fault, right? Like for doing things so late, and part of the reason why I did that was because I was so demotivated on it.
Sure.
I should have just sort of cut my losses and just painted it green.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Coulda, woulda,
shoulda. Absolutely. I mean, it's too late now, isn't it?
It is.
But it was too late, like when I was 2 days away from the deadline. That's the point where it was 2 days. And I was having talks with you guys, like online, saying, what am I going to do about this? This thing's just killing me.
And I think actually what you've done makes for a great subject one day in the future. Okay to fail.
I guess.
Yeah.
Can only redeem myself on the next opportunity.
Okay,
right?
done. You can take the next one on then. Moving on, there was another huge event on the weekend just gone, and that was the Models for Heroes 48-hour build, in which Ian was part of the Australian contingent who led that. There was yourself, John Marley,
Craig
Everson, and
go on, Callum from Micro Machines.
From Micro Machines podcast.
Yes.
Thank you. And I popped in a couple of times to see how you guys were going. It looks like you're having a wow of a time.
Yeah, it was a great lot of fun.
There's a lot of people sort of popping in and saying g'day. I unfortunately had Michelle's birthday that weekend, so.
But the only really downside for that one for me was the heat.
Yeah.
It was so hot that weekend, and as Julian said before, it didn't get below 29 degrees Celsius overnight. And when you're surrounded by lights in 8-hour stretches, I think it got to Saturday night, and by about 11 o'clock, I just ended up with the biggest heat migraine, and so I had to pull it shorter on that. But I decided this year to find what I presume to be the quickest, easiest kit to build. And so I chose the Bren Models 148 scale Yokosuka MXY7 Model 22 Oka.
Which is a Japanese flying bomb.
Suicide. Now, this is the jet version, not the rocket. This is the one that you, Julian, and myself saw at the was it the
museum in the Smithsonian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is the exact plane.
I can never remember the name of it.
I know. Someone will correct us anyway.
Yeah.
Now, it's one sprue. I've gone, you ripper, one sprue. I'll knock this out in no time. Yeah. What I should have looked at, not one locating pin.
Yeah.
So everything had to be like shimmed and then butt joined, and not one fitting, as Julian would know when he did his Moosearoo, fit. Nothing fit. It was because my original idea, I wanted to have it in flight. And I had this whole, I spoke to Julian about how this whole idea, how I was going to mount it, unfortunately, when they designed this kit, they made the cockpit way too shallow. So I could not find a Japanese pilot figure that would physically fit in the cockpit without having to like cut his torso in half and shorten it by 2 foot. So then I decided, I'll just have it on the ground. So, which then meant I had to build the trolley, which is all butt fit. Like, there's no locating pins or anything in it, except for where the wheels hook onto the axles, which are butt fitted to the frame anyway.
Okay.
And everything was going really well and cleaning it up, and then I got time to paint it. So I painted it with Guns Aqueous IJN Grey. Come up nice. And because we're at time frame, I got 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I thought, geez, I've got to get me decals on, so I'll give it a good gloss coat, which is what some people don't gloss coat. I do. It's just preference.
Yep.
Gave it a gloss coat, but I used the really good SMS gloss coat.
Yeah.
And what happened with Julian is because I'm putting it down because I jammed it on for starters.
Yeah.
Because I was rushed. I didn't have time to do multiple. I was just got to get this done because time's wasting.
Mm-hmm.
And the grey I don't think was dry enough either. So once the gloss coat went on there, it looked great for the first minute or two, and all of a sudden I just started realising that all the grey was being dragged away from the panel lines and pooling in the middle.
Wow, that's weird.
So I was just leaving these big dark spots underneath it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this isn't good. So then I had to, luckily the SMS dries very quick.
Yeah.
Plus I think also heat had something to do with it. For some reason with such heat, the paint just wasn't, you'd think, oh, it's hot, it's going to dry quick. No. I think it stays tackier or longer.
But you also had your air conditioning on as well, did you not? So,
yeah, but that was in another room,
yeah,
which doesn't quite reach where I was. I ended up having to have a fan running behind me the whole time I was on,
to bring the cold air into the
just to
room.
try and bring just to get some air moving in that room.
Yeah,
and so I ended up having to take it back to plastic and just repainting it. And luckily, when I got to repainting, it was during the day, so I managed to very carefully bake it outside in the sun.
Oh, did you?
Without melting it.
Okay.
Had to be really careful. Last thing I wanted to do was go out there and find everything drooped. So I finally got it painted, but like I said, it's a crap kit.
Well,
the detail's very soft. It's a terrible fit.
How'd you go with the canopy? Because normally that's a sticking point for bad fitting kits, right?
The canopy actually went on all right. There was a noticeable gap on the front of the windscreen.
Right.
Whereas even with taking a slight bit out of the sides of the canopy, didn't lower it enough without taking too much off.
And I know where you're going with the Brent gun, because I built the Hermes ground to air missile, and it was difficult, especially in 72nd scale. Yeah, and I'm working at such a small scale for that particular missile. That and everything's butt fit.
Yeah,
everything's butt fit, and even now I've got a fin that's slightly misaligned, and to get over the butt fit, and I tend to use super glue. So when I put it on, and I thought it was straight and made sure it was straight, and I came back and it would move slightly. So if you look at that particular kit now, it's got one of the fins is just slightly off canter, and it is what it is.
But I've got to say, the one redeeming feature on the Bren gun kit was their decals were really nice,
and they make interesting subjects too, which nobody else does. Yeah. So from that point of view, that they're really good kits, but they're certainly not for a beginner.
No. So I ended up just once I got it all painted, used the kit decals, which was handy because I started getting ghost seams. Don't have time to let the putty and everything dry. Like I like to let me putty dry for at least a week before I sand it. Old school. So I used the decals because there's like a red stripe that goes over the whole top and the center and the bottom. Yeah. So originally I was going to paint it, and I thought, no, that's not going to hide the ghost seam. So I just put the decal over there, but didn't press it down in the center. And so that now has perfectly hidden that ghost seam that runs the whole way down the top and bottom of the of the kit. So just put on a little runway sort of base with a couple of drums behind it and a US infantryman just looking inside the cockpit, and got it finished with a few hours to spare, and
I was pretty impressed with the base, considering it was from scratch.
yeah, well, it's just a block of wood that I cut and stained black, and just put some is it a.k.a. that does the ground texturing, the concrete ground texture over the top of that, and a few oil stains, and
no, it looked good. I was impressed. I'm going to have to talk to you about how you did that, because it was
the quickest, easiest part of the whole build. But you can notice from my first effort going down to this latest, because this is my third foray into the 48. My first effort was doing the little Komatsu bulldozer, where I did a whole jungle surrounding it as it's barreling through the jungle, which was like the base was probably more work than the kit itself. And the second one was the US fuel truck, which I did like a side of a runway with a bit of grass and a guy holding the fuel hose. And this one's just, you can see like it's the bases are getting more basic, isn't it?
I think you're dialing it in though. Like, less is more kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, with 48 hours to build, you haven't got a lot to work with.
No, I know, but I mean, like, I think like
I could have done more if I didn't have to repaint the thing.
Like, if I used like your other basing type work as a guide to like what you consider is a good standard. This is your normal kits, not like 48-hour build. I think you're getting closer to that level with your 48-hour build basing. So I think this one looks, even though it's a less effort, it looks better objectively than your previous attempts.
Yeah, yeah. But the other guys who were on there, was it Craig built a Tamiya 48 scale Abrams. He's done a beautiful job on.
Awesome job on that.
John Marley did the Airfix 48 scale Hawk trainer,
another great build,
which he did in a great paint scheme. The was it 100th
anniversary
squadron, 100th squadron anniversary with the big skull and crossbones on the bottom. Yes. Callum did the Fiesler V1, the Tamiya that one. Yeah, so all four of us got our kits over the line and finished.
It's funny, I had that,
and we raised over £17,000.
$17,741.32 in Australian dollars.
Yep.
And
which is no small effort. That's very good. The Americans, they just went bananas with the auction.
Yeah. What is that with Americans and auctions? I love them.
Yeah, well, we were a bit limited with what we could do considering the time we had to get it organised. But
never get between a yank and an auction or a raffle.
Yes.
I'm telling you, because you'll get knocked down in the stampede.
Well,
man.
You have to remember that when you say yank, that's different in our sort of knowledge of it, isn't it? No. we don't see it in terms of like the north and the south.
No, a yank.
It's an American.
All right. Never get between a septic tank and...
A septic tank. Oh, now he's pushing it.
Shots fired.
That's an old slang word.
But it's true. I mean, I just can't get over how nuts these guys are for auctions and for raffles. And it's like getting in between the buffet bar and a fat man. If you're not looking, you can get knocked over and stampeded.
But they had some wonderful kits on their auction. But we did all right with the auction because Metro, they donated the new Airfix Sea King.
Yeah.
Scott from SMS donated this wonderful package, which included an airbrush, sanding sticks, paint brushes, tools, array of acrylic and lacquer paints. Yep. Hobbies Australia, they donated the new, what was it, the Magic Factory Bradley.
Oh, wow, okay.
And also the Academy Mariner, is it? I think Mariner float plane, which these are pre-releases, so they haven't been released in the shops yet. And the Mariner comes with RFF markings, which was an extra bonus.
Okay.
So even though we only had the 4 items, we did really well with the auction. Like some people really put their money down, which was good.
Yeah, there's not one thing you mentioned there that I wouldn't have been happy.
Exactly, me too. Me too. I was looking at all these kits going, geez, they're nice kits. I'd have either one. And that package from Scott too. I was like,
Scott is just he's such a huge supporter of the hobby.
And big kudos to the guys there for their donations.
Yeah, 100%.
Considering, unfortunately, it was all done at the last minute because things happened during the year and so forth, and those guys stepped up to the plate, and we really appreciate it.
Did a great job.
So I'm looking forward to next year.
So you're going to again help lead the Aussie contingent next year and the OTB contingent next year?
Yeah.
Cool bananas.
Hopefully get a bit more time to prepare this time.
And of course, thanks to all of our other sister podcasts around the world who also sort of jumped in and did a fantastic job as well. It was a great weekend event.
And it's for a great reason too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But no, very happy.
100%.
Very, very happy.
All right. I think, you know what, I think we might have our interview first and then we'll have a look at listener mail.
Yeah.
And how does that sound?
Sounds good.
And then we'll, let's just sort of mix it up a bit. I'm in that kind of
mood.
Let's have a quick break first, but we'll be back with a fantastic interview with Chris. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Chris from the blog called The Model Aeroplane Maker. G'day, Chris. How are you, mate?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I've been listening for a long time.
Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
So tell the world who Chris is.
Sure thing.
There you go. Throw him under the bus.
And where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Yes.
Man, these interviews are tough. Okay. Let's start in terms of modeling, which is probably the most relevant thing to talk about. I think like most of you started off in modeling as a kid and then at some point got interested in other things. But oddly enough, it was my mother that got me involved with modeling and not my dad, because she was the creative one, always was working with her hands. My dad was more of the technical side. So when I was a little bit older, he tried to introduce me to model trains. And let's be honest, it was him that was really doing all the trains and all the wiring and all that kind of stuff. And but I found that I still like building the models. And so I just kept with it. Get to junior high, high school, that sort of thing. Models sort of became a secondary, tertiary, and then not even a thing anymore. But I came back to it in 2007, like most do. Needed something to pass the time and really enjoyed modeling as a kid, so I thought I'd take it up again. Since then, it's been mostly aircraft, but I dabble in a couple of other things, and mostly 48 scale, but I dabble in a couple of other things. And if I were to say the most interest to me is Pacific War. So if you take a look at my case, it would probably be like 80% of the things in there are related to the Pacific War on all sides.
That's where Ian sort of loves to build.
That's a lot my theme of interest at the moment.
Yeah, but the problem,
I'm still...
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say that, but you're more than just planes. You can't stop building anything in the Pacific Theatre.
Yeah, armour, figures, ships, the whole kit.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of ships, but it's definitely not in my wheelhouse. And so, move it. At some point, I thought, hey, well, actually, you guys remember probably before Facebook was a thing, most people sort of gathered online and they went into forums and things like that.
Yes.
That's where I got a lot of my tips. And then Facebook kind of took over that whole marketplace at some point, maybe around 2000. I want to say 2010-ish. It started to make the shift, right? He started to move it over.
Yeah.
Well,
So
a
it
big
took
part
me
of
a
that
while
was
to-
the photo bucket. When
that happened, that pretty much destroyed 90% of the forums.
Yeah.
How to effectively run your business into the ground.
Yeah, pretty much, wasn't it?
That was just a horrible decision on the part of them.
Yeah.
And at around that time, about 2017, I thought maybe I should start a blog. And so I did. And it was mostly about just sharing tips and techniques. It was really about sharing pictures of stuff, that kind of thing. But then it slipped into the occasional commentary on this and that, some things more popular than others. And then over time, I decided to start up a channel on YouTube, and so I have one of those as well.
Yes.
That was starting in the pandemic 2020. I found myself with a heck of a lot of time on my hands and a fairly stressful job, but this allowed me to have a little creativity and some more fun. And that's really the aim of that channel too. So it's tips, techniques, but it's really more on the side of inspiration and fun as opposed to, I don't know, something very hardcore and and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit lighthearted compared to some other channels, but
Yep.
definitely I hope that anyone who watches whatever I do takes some inspiration from it and get something out of it in terms of their modeling.
Oh, that's great.
And I got to say, I'm looking through your blog. There's a couple of things that really jump out at me. It's your 1/72nd scale dinosaur, which is building both in my genre and also my scale, but also your SR-71 Blackbird, which I do have one in 72nd scale, which I'm keen to build shortly. So, and just sort of as a diverting from what we're actually going to get on and talk about, the building of your Blackbird is just superb. The way you shaded it and didn't make it just paint it all black, and just brought in the subtleties that the aircraft actually has.
Well, thank you. It was a ton of fun to build that. That was one of those times when, you try to do some experiments and it all actually worked out.
Yeah, it's good when that happens.
Isn't that awesome when that actually happens from time to time?
Yeah, just unfortunately it doesn't happen enough.
Especially not for me, because I'm risk averse.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. So, you're building your stuff. So, do you find that you build a lot less with your blog, or does your blog sort of help you sort of build more?
The blog really doesn't have much to do with it, but the videos do make. If I'm going to do some filming, it does take up a heck of a lot more time, and so I build a little bit less. And then it's like, well, do you want to see me try new techniques and fail over and over again on video? Probably not. So there's a lot more testing and practice that goes into certain things, and then I'll say, I finally got it, or at least I'll take this take.
Yeah,
I'll take this particular take, and then this is good enough. There's no swearing in the background, so I'll grab this one, and then we can go from there. So it's usually So to answer your question, because there's more video, it's a little bit less building, but I don't mind too much because it's actually bringing out a whole other side of the hobby for me, which is a bit more experimenting, a bit more trying to find new ways of doing things. And I actually, I really enjoy it. I also enjoy doing the videos in terms of the voiceovers and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to do on there is less, and now I'm putting the antenna on the top of the tank. No, I don't do it that way. It's more just a running commentary as you see me building things. So it's a little bit different that way.
With the videos that not just yourself but other people do on YouTube, I find I enjoy it more if they actually show their mistakes as well, because that shows that they're normal human beings like the rest of us, all make mistakes. But also by showing a mistake, it possibly helps the model builder avoid that same pitfall that they've gone down, or the same mistake that they've done. So I find them a lot more entertaining and a lot more relevant to my style of building than perhaps the glossy YouTube video where they start at point one and go all the way through to the end of the 30-minute show, and they've got this perfect model that suddenly magically appeared on their desk. They don't show all the multiple takes they do to get something right necessarily.
And the other side of that too, David, is that if you make a mistake, it's fixable.
Yeah,
right. So it's not. Don't be afraid that if you muff something, you can fix it.
Exactly right.
Totally agree on that one.
Exactly right. So apart from you being a very interesting and person to chat to, the real reason behind getting you on the show is as a result of your latest blog, in which you wrote about rewarding results or efforts. And I thought it was really, really interesting sort of thought that you put down, sort of that's open for discussion, and I'd like to sort of peel it back a little bit more. We actually spoke a while back about it, and you actually sort of I'm not pinned down to the tail to the donkey, but you sort of mentioned that we perhaps were just on the cusp of something, but we didn't take it to the next level. And what you're really talking about is, without trying to sound too airy-fairy, you're talking about postmodernism and scale models. It's not as highfalutin as it sounds. It's a more sort of down-to-earth discussion. So perhaps you want to give a précis of exactly what you sort of wrote, and then we can sort of perhaps dive in and talk about it in more detail.
Sure thing. So I'll go back to the point where I said that a lot of people were complaining after a certain well-known model contest that took place in the United States, and you can almost set your watch to the complaining that always happens after this show. And but
any
this
show.
time, any show. You're right. Any show, even my local show, you can start setting your watch to it. But in this particular case, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I noticed that the voices were louder and they were more persistent. And I certainly would even say they came in waves almost. And it was a few things that were being mentioned. Now, there were some very legitimate things that were being mentioned in terms of some things that happened to that show in terms of checking the gender of a certain tank in the middle of the show.
Yes.
There was also a certain pushing of friends forward into the winner's circle that might not have been normally been there.
Yes.
But the key thing that I was really focusing on in this particular piece was that the complaints about rule changes, and there needs to be rule changes, and why won't the IPMS change their rules? And I did explore this with a couple of people that I knew, but they never really pinned down exactly what rules needed to be changed. So that made me scratch my head. It's just like, well, they're not listening to us. We need to change these rules. They're not doing this. And I thought, okay, that's a little bit weird. Going back to some of the commentary, of course, this always devolves into one of two things, right? We shouldn't have contests at all. It should be just a display only. It should be just a friendly, right? There's always that alley of conversation.
Yeah, the kumbaya approach to a model show.
The kumbaya approach.
And it can be, but certainly I have heard of a few shows that are very successful display only shows. So I mean, there is a legitimate discussion to be had, but it's the standard talking points over and over again. And then you go down this other path, which is 1, 2, 3 versus GSB. And it's always this 1, 2, 3 versus GSB, and one side is better, and this is the way they do it, and why don't we do it? And so I made a connection as to why is this always devolving down this whole GSB 1, 2, 3, and what are people really getting at when they want to have rule changes? And looking at some of the shenanigans that happened at the show, and some of the words that were said in terms of scope of effort, it just was almost a light bulb sort of situation for me. It's like, so is it really about people wanting to have a gold star for their effort? Or do we really want to talk about, no, it's whatever's on the table that day, whatever is meeting all of the needs of the judges, whoever they are, as to what is the model that they believe is first and second and third. And you guys talked about that on that show in terms of, we have Julian here who said, this is I'm sorry, I'm speaking for you, so correct me if I'm wrong. Jump in anytime.
I said it at the time, it has to be taken in a vacuum.
Right. So it was, no, the result speaks for itself. That's the way it has to be. And who cares what effort or what sweat, blood, and tears went into getting you there? And then we had Ian over here who had an equally interesting argument, which is, well, wait a minute. Some of these things are real pains in the butt to get fixed and to make look great. And you can make a case for if someone took an awful kit, something out of the dark ages, and put it on the table, and it's competing at that level, there should be a nod towards that. So then you guys stopped the discussion, and then I just thought, man.
Well, we stopped it so that you could write your blog.
Gone.
We stopped it so you could write this wonderful blog.
And I'm like, boy, these guys missed a great opportunity here. They could have gone really academic. They could have gone like full on fist pounding arguments over more postmodernism versus modernism. But and I had a little fun writing it too. So that's where we are. And so at the end of the piece, you're going to notice that I certainly don't give a nod one or the other. I don't make it an indictment. I do say, for some of the voices, what are your real bona fides? Are you really saying this for one reason, or you really want the reward? I don't know. And then I thought at the end, I kind of like the idea that at the end of the show or the end of the day, someone can hit a home run. Someone could really bring something out, hit a home run, and it didn't have to involve this horrible crawling through glass to get there. They don't need to do that. They just made a great model and it was acknowledged. So that was kind of where I was going with that piece. And if I misquoted either of you, I apologize, but I think I got the gist of what you guys were
all
saying.
good, mate. All good.
So as the person who is supposedly, apparently, taking the postmodernist position in this thing,
debate.
That's not really sort of what I was thinking about when I sort of took that position, and it was more like a throw a grenade on the table moment for me when I said it. Right, so I just was like, well, maybe we should do away with all the underpinnings and just judge the result, right? Because it's getting like in real life, as far as real life goes, I don't really I definitely believe in the whole you need to put in effort to get somewhere. I mean, we're all accomplished modelers here, right? I mean, we've all had to grapple with learning airbrushing, all that sort of stuff, weathering, gloss coats, etc. You can only get to a higher level by putting in effort, right? And at the same time, I'm a big advocate for always build the best kit that you can find of the subject.
Right.
Right? But, I mean, with regards to this discussion, I mean, the way I arrived at that thought process was it's getting increasingly hard to quantify all these different things that you can do to get to the end result. It's just becoming this huge spaghetti mess. How on earth are you supposed to, even if you just localize it to just an out-of-box build, there's such a wide difference between your old crummy kits of the 70s and modern CAD engineered kits, that how are you supposed to compare them?
Right.
So I mean, because what you're looking at here is, and if we're saying just 1, 2, 3 first across the line wins type situation, and you look at like sporting events or even the Olympics, let's say like a foot race. So it's clear.
Sure, he's going to.
Everybody starts at the same sort of. The only difference is your track assignment might be different depending on your times that you've done in your pre-qualifications, but everybody starts on the same point of the track. The gun goes off. You run 100 meters, and first across the line wins. Second across the line wins. Third across the line wins. To equate the same thing back to our hobby.
It's linear.
Yeah. To equate the same thing to our hobby, the only way you can achieve that same result is if everybody is given a Tamiya 148 scale kit. Everybody gets exactly the same one, builds it, and then enters it. That's the only way you can do it. But that's not our hobby. Our hobby is this whole cornucopia of different sort of genres, styles, model kits, tastes. Exactly right. So it's almost like you're looking at a football match where you've got two teams competing, A and B, and whoever gets the highest score at the end of the match wins. But along that process, you've got a referee who says, no, you can only play the game a certain way. So, if you get caught holding the ball, for example, then the other team gets an advantage and all that type of stuff. So there's a slight difference between the two. And I guess that sort of comes to how do we equate that to our modelling side of things. And I'm just thinking and talking off the top of my head here. The Europeans don't seem to have any issues with this. They seem to have fantastic shows without all this rigmarole and discussions and arguments about how we actually run a show and the rules around it. It's interesting to note that Telford, the latest Telford show, they're all in uproar because a science fiction.
A what if
a science fiction what if a kit actually won, and I think it was even scratch built to make it even more complicating. And yet I looked at it from what I saw. That was a brilliant kit and well deserved to be sort of placed where it got placed as best in show. And then you look at the other arguments and issues that we're having on in the US. I don't know what it's like in Canada, where obviously they've had all this rigmarole over the last couple of years. So I don't know how I mean, and there's movements within the US to sort of try and sort of bring more logical sense to it. I know our good friends over at the Model Geeks have certainly pioneered it with a show they've done. They put the money where their mouth is and actually ran a gold, silver, bronze show.
That's right.
Using, for want of better terms, the open system to judge. And from what I've been hearing, a lot of other clubs over in the US have sort of been taking that on board and getting that information and sort of starting to push forward with it. So I don't know where I was going with that. It was just a monologue. Just a monologue.
And to Julian's point, it's that whole idea of measuring effort, because that's going to be extremely impossible it's impossible to do. One, what if I'm up against someone like Paul Butzik, right? Like what he thinks is incredibly easy and almost juvenile, I'm going to be struggling with.
Yes.
Right? So it's not a fair fight, quote unquote, fair fight that way either. So how are you going to measure it? How are you going to compare it? When you say it's a foot race, in a way it is, but that's assuming that we're all the same level starting the foot race.
Exactly.
We don't have an Olympian, an Olympian versus some guy in grade 7. Like it's not exactly, you're not exactly in the same thing. But at the end of the day, I think that so long as, I guess, we don't have this checkbox thing where it's just like geared towards effort versus what is the end result? I don't know. Does it meet all of your standards? Does it meet all of these tests? What's measurable? What's not? This is not an easy discussion. And I certainly don't think one system trumps the other necessarily.
And how do you even indeed measure effort? Because the people who are measuring you might not have the understanding of the complexities of that particular model that you've submitted. So there might be.
So that's where a brag book would come in handy.
Well, yes, yeah, that's true. And then you've got this other sort of. I want to sort of throw this into the ring as well. You've got this other sort of small cohort of people who think that 3D printing is no effort. Well, we well know that you've got to design it, and if you don't design it, you've got to purchase it, and then the actual printing of it. I mean, that's no easy task. There's still a dark sort of art to actually getting the darn thing right as well.
Multiple prints to get it right.
Yeah, and which is even harder than just buying a styrene box and shaking it and baking it, and bingo, it's sort of built and complete without any sort of issues.
Not to mention, it's only as good as the design that you put into the printer in the first place.
Yeah.
When it comes to see, this is the problem. Like, I'll be listening to the discussion rolling forward, and then I'll think, I'll say that when I jump in, and then I'll forget it. So, let's see, what was I thinking about? I've forgotten now.
I sidetracked you with my 3D thought.
Yeah, probably. It'll come back to me. Don't worry.
Yeah. So what we're getting back to, I guess, is that to recognise effort, you have to have a very good understanding of not only the model, but that's being entered, but the history of the manufacturing process behind that model, albeit something that was done in the 70s by a mainstream manufacturer, or something you've done yourself either through 3D printing or through scratch building. And that's where it comes to the selection of your judges, I guess, to a certain extent.
Yeah, you need judges with knowledge.
Yeah.
You can't just grab anyone off the floor.
If you're looking at the effort side of it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you need someone who's been in the modelling community for, 30-odd years plus?
Well, I wouldn't say that far. I mean, even 10 years, but whatever. But
30 years plus.
Yep.
People will come into the hobby and then get back out of it in less than 30 years.
The person who's looking at it needs to have a good understanding of the type of work that's behind it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like...
right.
And then you don't have enough judges to run a show.
Yeah. I don't know. No.
At the I've only judged in 2 shows. Last show was just recently, and they asked me for some reason beyond my understanding to be a section judge, and that's really more of a management role. And so the 2 things that I noted was I had to go and recruit, and generally I had to recruit on the day of. So I have to grab people on the neck on the floor to bring them back to the judges room without too much discussion with it. Hey, do you like model airplanes? Yeah, I sure do. Come on, you're going to judge with me. I'm kidding. I was a little bit of exaggeration. I was lucky in that I was grabbing some fairly well-known aircraft modelers and previous judges. But one guy said, "I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing." I said, "Great. You just go with a couple guys that have done it before, and everyone's get along." Turns out the guy who'd never done it before, he's been published everywhere. His stuff has been in every magazine. He's been doing it for a million years. He could tell you from 10 feet away whether something was off or something, a wheel was misaligned or something. This guy is probably better than everyone combined, and he's never judged before. So it's really the luck of the draw. And so I can't imagine being able to sort of organize this idea of agreeing on a standard in terms of effort or something like that, which is why I think, now I'm definitely no expert on IPMS rules, but they kind of mold 4 different things together. Was it like it's finish, it's scope of effort, it's build quality, and something else? But it's not like 20%, 20 or 25, 25, 25, 20. It's they have this sort of bucket in which they can judge with.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I think they do that, but I'm not an expert as to how those things are applied practically.
But on any given Sunday, if you grab 10 models off the street and have a really good model on a table and an average and a bad one, I think our hobby is, or the people who partake in the hobby, they're intelligent enough to be able to pick what a good kit looks like when you have a mediocre and a bad kit there side by side for them to look at. So 9 out of 10 cats will get it right, I'd suggest.
Yeah.
Well, I should hope so.
Well,
You definitely hope so.
so the
One guy. Sorry, go ahead, Julian.
so like the crux of the discussion is the effort versus result,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But with effort, I mean, there's not just the effort that's gone into the model. There's also the effort to get to the point where you built that model, right? Let's say like you got a guy who's got 50 years of experience, and he can obviously just go through the motions and turn out a very, very nice kit, assuming he's like, applied himself for all those 50 years, let's say, and hasn't just sort of sat on his laurels, and he's at a very high skill level, like a Paul Budzik kind of character, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Who's just got like this mountain of, effort and skills and everything's honed to perfection, and he can just go through the motions and turn out a brilliant model. And then you got like little Stewie, who's like 16 years old, right? And Stewie has to learn everything for the first time, but he's managed, after building this one single kit, doing over mistakes, the many mistakes he's made, he's able to get it to almost the same standard as this other guy who's going through the motions at 50 years old, right?
Yeah, they're the people we all hate.
Now you've got 2 different levels of effort, right? You've got effort that was hard won, and then as far as within the lifetime of building that one model, obviously the more experienced modeler has made almost 0 mistakes, right?
Yeah, because that newer modeler, he's been online,
And
he's been watching all these tutorials.
And it's
whereas us, we were modelling before internet was a thing,
and
so we had to learn by our mistakes. So for the younger generations, it's a lot easier to get to a higher quality than it is for us.
So if you're judging on effort, like how many effort points does each party get?
And I think for that exact reason, the effort should be taken out of the equation, because you don't know the individuals who have submitted the model. So why should you be giving them points for effort when you don't even know who they are as a judge. You're supposed to be blind to who they are. Yes, you can.
See, there you go. You used the key word, right?
Yes.
Blind judging.
Yeah. And to get to your point, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, is that it's not the effort you should be looking at. It's the end result matters, regardless of how you got there. I mean, I can get to New York multiple different ways. Some are harder and longer.
I ran through that argument in my head,
and others.
I thought, that's a bit too long-winded for this.
It's the fact that I got there is what I should be, judged upon and appropriately awarded, if in fact it deserves an award.
I mean,
David Goldfinch, postmodernist.
Oh, I'm a very lucky guy. The harder I work, the luckier I get.
But you've seen those entries on the table where someone almost has to attach a full scat paper at the end because they list off every single thing that they did. You know, I did my own decals. I added all these extra aftermarket piece. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And I'm thinking, is that the effort that we're talking about? Are we like, well, I need to climb a mountain every single time I do an entry and then that'll get the nod versus, what's an innate skill that I just have after 30 years versus one that I've developed very recently. So yeah, agree with you all. Impossible.
I'm sure we've all met one of those guys who was like, I started this kit 7 years ago. It took me 7 years to finish. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And obviously that it wasn't 7 years of full time. What happened was he worked on it for a week and then he put it on a shelf for 3 years, right? And then he did a bit of it and then sort of lost his mojo and put it back on the shelf. I mean, at one point do you sort of go, well, sorry, but your 7 years isn't really 7 years, and it's no different to if you just started that model and finished it in one sitting, is it?
7 years of thinking about it.
Yes.
7 years.
Oh yeah, that's a good quote. How many effort points do I get for thinking about it? How many hours did I spend in the thinking man's pose?
How am I going to get this built?
Yes. How am I going to fix it?
Another factor is, these are model shows and they need to make money to, run to be able to put on the next show. So it, to some degree, it's in their interest to have the best model win, right? You don't want to be a show that is rewarding lesser models. You don't want people coming in through the door and going, well, that's strange. I mean, why did that one win when this one is clearly better?
I'm struggling to see where you're saying that shows need to put.
Well, I mean, in order to have a show that's reputable,
yes,
and
reputation, yes,
right,
yes,
you need to reward the best model on the table,
yes,
right,
yes.
You need to be able to say, come to our show. We have really good models, and we promote
fair judging.
We promote the really come to our show and you'll see really good models and you'll see them win and everyone will be, clamoring to get that win because they're putting in their best effort, right?
Yeah.
Their best effort or it's just really good models, right?
Really good models.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, my best effort might not be the same as Ian's best effort. I might think that, this is my best effort ever, but the model itself might not reach the same benchmark as what Ian puts on the table on the same day. So, again, you've got to take the effort thing out of it. You can't use that as a judging metric, I don't think.
I've got a really good point for this discussion. So, in figure models, right?
Yeah.
I've often, one of my first experiences being at Melbourne Model Expo was I was just going around the tables having a look and I got to the figures and this woman ambushed me because obviously she was waiting nearby to talk to someone who was looking at her model.
How often does it get ambushed by a woman?
Let's not get on that.
Wow. We're going to go down some fun holes.
So this is what people will do at model shows, right? They'll hang out around their model and wait to sort of talk to someone as using their own model as a point of common ground, right? So anyway, she did that, and I was like, that one looks pretty good. That one looks like it might win, and she says, I think that one's cheating.
Cheating.
And the point was it was a character with a shield, and she thought that the emblem on the shield was done using a decal, right? Instead of being hand painted with a brush.
Right.
Right?
Is that a no-no in the figure world?
Well,
I don't really think it should be.
Depending on which circles you're going in, even using an airbrush is considered bad taste. Right? Because especially like with Warhammer and stuff, it's like, here's your brush and here's your paint, go for it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, airbrushes, you're using those? That's a bit...
That's heresy.
That's a bit try hard, isn't it? You're taking it a bit too seriously, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know? Obviously, you push past that point, you get up to the level of like a lot of the people you see on Instagram and stuff. Brilliant painters. And they don't care. They're just they'll grab anything they can get their hands on to get a better looking model. Right?
Right.
They're doing zenithal highlighting, where they paint the model black they prime the model black and then they'll do the white highlight from above kind of thing.
But don't forget what Mars said, and it's a bit of a side note here. You're going to be careful at some of these Instagram things because they're actually not necessarily being done by the one artist. There's like a studio behind them, so pushing it through as well.
You can sort of somewhat tell, right?
I can't.
Well, so some of the people on there are what you would call an influencer, right? They've got like their YouTube channel, they've got their Instagram, and they're throwing up, and then they're doing, they're offering workshops where people can come in and pay their $3 to Patreon or whatever it is, and then learn how to paint as well as they do, right? I believe TJ is highlighted an Instagram guy that I follow because he does really, really, really nice work. And obviously he's Spanish painter. Obviously, every single time it's always the Spanish painters that are doing the really
the
bright colors and really impactful figure paints. But yeah, I mean they'll airbrush all day. They got their Vallejo sponsorship. They're airbrushing Vallejo on their figures and stuff. Yeah, it's in the figure world. It's interesting what's deemed this is done properly, this is cheating kind of thing, and it's changing pretty fast because it's a very obviously the Warhammer side and figure painting side of things is taking off quite a lot these days, especially on Instagram and other social media.
So Chris, where are you coming down on the effort side of things?
Pick a camp. Are you with us or against us?
I'll say this: I got a lot of interesting feedback from putting that blog piece out.
Oh, I bet
and some
you
people
did.
said something.
I bet you did.
Yeah. Some of which I can repeat, some of which I cannot. But one person said something to me that I never, ever actually thought about. Because in my going to shows, I just put things on the table. If they turned a few heads or won something, great. And if they didn't, oh well, next time. I never really truly paid attention to this particular thing that he said. And he said, you're talking about certain people at certain levels that always want to place, so they always want to win, or they always want to get the best ofs. That's the people you're talking about here. He said, Chris, for the average showgoer, for the average person who comes in, who actually, he said, well, first of all, he prefaced this by saying, we are talking really esoteric discussion here. This is a model contest, for crying out loud. I said, yeah, I get what you're saying. He said, for the average person who took the time, put the effort in to bring something to a show, to put it on the table, they expect that at least their model is going to get judged and not immediately DQ'd, disqualified.
Yep.
They want to have a belief that at least someone looked at it and gave it a once over, as opposed to going, that one right there, that one right there, that one right there. Okay, done. Let's move on. And it's almost like a social contract here, right? It's like, I came to the show, I played by your rules. At the least you could do is
acknowledge my existence, kind of thing.
Acknowledge my existence, and at least let me know that you gave me a shot, right?
Yes.
And I just paused and I said, you're right. Like, I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. You want to have that assurance that at least you got an eyeball on your kit and a fair shot. And then, well, if you didn't win, you didn't win, right? Or if you didn't place, you didn't place. You can move on. But I think there's that discomfort that some people have. It's just like, well, what's the point of even trying if no one even looks at my stuff? Now, I don't know if that actually takes place or not, but I think it's a valid feeling that some people have. And I thought I'd never heard that before, but thanks for letting me know.
Which then sort of takes us in the esoteric area. Are we here to sort of cater to people's feelings, or are we here for another reason? In regards to model shows, I'm talking about.
I don't know.
So how do you cater to that desire of the average modeler wanting some assurance or validation that at the very least their model was taken into due consideration by those who are judging it on the day? How do you do that? I don't know.
How do you guarantee it?
Even can you? I don't think you can.
Maybe if they had like
a couple of things you
sure.
Go on, I'm listening. Yep, after you.
I'll just get this out really quickly because I don't want to be like Julian and forget what I want to say. I just kidding. I'm kidding. I think that one of the issues that person had was he wanted feedback. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for any show, GSB 1, 2, 3, doesn't really matter what it is. If there was an aspect of that show where a modeler could get feedback, aside from the judging sheet, aside from that coaching feedback, whatever, if that was catered to in a given model show, if that was an aspect of the show, hey, if you think you want to compete someday, or hey, what do you think of your model? Bring it to room number 237. We have a few guys in there that might want to give you some pointers on how you can build in the future. I think that's a wonderful opportunity based on some of the feedback that I've heard over the years in terms of people not really enjoying their participation at a show. Anyway,
and again, just to throw to the geeks, because they came up with this idea where they got post-it notes and they've got about 5 or 6 different things already printed on it, so the judges they're going along can tick a particular thing. It might have seam lines, or it might have misaligned wheels as an example. I don't know, I haven't looked at it. And then they can maybe write a little bit more on that post-it note and stick it down on the actual model for when the guy comes back, so they can actually then see. It's done for 2 reasons.
Right.
Number one, it's really quick for the judges to be able to at least pay some attention to it, but not where you're standing there writing an essay. And B, it then allows the participant to know, hey, okay, I can see that they did look at it, and these are the points where I've got to work in the future when I'm looking at building models for competition. And
it would seem to not take too much time to provide that type of feedback. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea.
It is indeed.
Well, it works. It certainly works at the sort of moderate to lower end of any given category, right? Like if you're looking at the sort of top 5 models on a given category, it's not really going to tell you where you fell short of winning, right?
How do you mean?
or the feedback could be, I just didn't like it.
So it helps people get onto the competitive table, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Get
right.
Get into the running. But if where you get to the best models of that category, and there's much less differences between them, you can't really slap one of those stickers on the table. Because one of those post-it notes, because you might write, okay, landing gear. It's like, well, my landing gear looks like their landing gear. Like, what specifically? And then you realize it's like 1 point difference or something. And it's like, really? Landing gear?
Yeah, but if you're aspiring to be, the best of the best on the day, it comes down to that real sort of fine-tooth hair thing.
Yes, I know. But I mean, obviously it does. But I mean, it's such a nuanced thing at that point that you can't really just tick a box.
And then that's why the gold, silver, bronze is better, because then both of those kits would be awarded the gold.
Right. So like it's the same problem if you've got like the separate room where you can take your model and say, okay, what can I do better on this model? Because maybe your model's already at a really high level. You just missed out on the win by like 3 points, right? And then the guys in that room will look at it and go, well, I don't see where you can improve. You look like you've got a very, very good model on your hands.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so
yet you still didn't win.
Exactly right.
It's
So
just like...
you're supporting my argument where that's where gold, silver, bronze is superior over first, second, third. And it should be the go-to for all shows.
I'm not necessarily in favor.
My idea is for a show for people who maybe put it into like 2 divisions.
Oh, you got one for each?
No, one for each. Like one for the 1, 2, 3s for every Joe Blow. Put your stuff on the table, gets judged that way. Then you have a separate division, the Masters, where you can have the gold, silver, bronze. Now, to become a master, you either have to win best of show or win first place a certain amount of times. And with that, in that division, that's when you can start going into the effort, like turning a 150 scale Schmer SM79 into a masterpiece, which, as we know, pretty much is humanly impossible, but someone out there might do it.
So the thing, it's a really interesting concept that you came up with. And in video games, right, which is highly competitive, and these things have been thrashed out in much greater detail on a minute basis rather than a yearly basis. So things have been developed very, very quickly down to like the best system. The way they do it is they've got leagues, right? So you got, say, bronze or wood league at the bottom, and then it goes bronze.
Start at lead.
Yeah, well, normally it's supposed to start at bronze, but obviously, like, there's always another level of how shit people can be, right?
I'd be in dirt right? league.
And so, like, the original sort of system is you got bronze, silver, gold, and then like platinum, and then challenger. Right, where the top tier, like the top 100 people.
You mean like the Iron Chef
on Earth, kind of compete, right?
Yep.
And you sort of got to give. It gets you the more wins you get, you go up in rating, and then if you don't, if you get enough points, you get sort of like a graduation kind of trial that will get you to the next league.
Exactly.
Hang on,
right?
That's already done in AMPs. AMPs do that already. So you've got your progression where you go through to the master's position.
But you're still competing against only yourself in that system. Whereas in video games, you're always competing against others, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Which is what I was trying to come across.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
So instead, it'd be like, okay, well, you've got an IPMS system, but you've got multiples of them stacked on top of each other, right? And so it's like, okay, well, you've won this category. You've gotten gold like 3 times. You can't come here anymore. You got to go up to the next league.
Yeah. So that's what I was coming across. That way you can gradually get higher in level.
Gotcha. There's only one problem with this, and the problem is there's not enough participants. Because if you spread people out across multiple leagues, you'll only end up with a couple people, like two people in any given one. Right? There's not enough.
Oh, but I don't mean, look, I don't actually mean like having multiple levels. I mean like maybe having 3 levels maximum.
Yeah. That's the only way you could do it, right? But then, even then, like you've got whole categories.
You've got intermediate, you got your beginner, intermediate, master.
And to compensate for that, you would have to broaden the categories to get enough people in there. So, for example, you might have to amalgamate all the different scales for aircraft.
Yeah.
Right?
At the top league, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you would rank every single participant, right? So you would have placements of 1 through to 30, for example.
But the thing also you got to realise is the higher the ranking, the less participants you're going to have.
And then by the time you get to the top, you're dealing with very few people.
Yeah, you're dealing with maybe half a dozen to a dozen kits on the table.
But then
And you're
it
going to
gives,
have to buy a lot of pizza for them judges. 'Cause they're
Oh yeah. But my idea was that an idea maybe would be to get the actual people who have participated to judge, but they don't judge their own kit.
Oh,
So
you
you're
make
basically
it
being-
compulsory.
Yeah. So you
That's an
are
interesting concept.
you are judged by. Look, in all seriousness, when it comes to judging, we're all pretty fair, right? You're going to find
you'd like to think that we are.
we are, yeah.
But
And,
what
and
about our
generally,
unconscious bias? That's a hard
Yeah.
one. I don't know that I have any unconscious bias until it gets pointed out to me by somebody else.
yeah, true, very true.
I mean, you know,
I really.
So, and also it could be like something that you like I'm a fan of biplanes, so I'm going to give him an extra couple of points.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I see where that falls in the head. But besides that,
Your league thing is very interesting, Julian. I think it's
that was my idea. Remember?
okay.
Whoa!
Yeah,
I think your chair just broke.
you gotta lose some weight, dude.
Whoa!
But there's obviously a lot of work behind there in which you've actually then got to have very good record keeping so that you can maintain it over the years. And those masters, for example, so if I become in the top league for aircraft, do I then automatically have to go in the top league for armour, or am I allowed to start at the bottom and move the way up?
I'd probably.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
I'm not sure how that goes.
Because I'm thinking off the top of my head, like, you know, everybody knows that Sam Dwyer's fantastic armour modeller, and
he's a good aircraft modeler.
and
too.
he's a good aircraft modeller as well. So if he decides to build a ship, for example, does he go straight to the very top league, or does he have to start?
I think he'd probably have to start at the well.
Well, if
You couldn't put someone with a good decent caliber in beginners, so they'd have to start in like the intermediate, and then work to master.
Yeah, I mean,
That's my fair way of thinking.
It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure exactly. Like it would highly be dependent on participant numbers, right?
Yeah.
Ship models. I mean, like if you had them separate, I mean, like that. I mean, there's not going to be many participants, right? And they'll only have one model for the whole event.
Well, considering how long it takes to build a ship and how much work you put in one.
Well,
that they took 7 years to build.
Exactly, Chris.
I mean, you know, we've got a good friend, Chris Bacon, and geez, anything he puts in, forget it.
But I think it also creates like a ladder with like a ladder to climb as far as skill level goes. It gives you a path to better skill, right? Like you want to be able to go up the level. You want to be able to say, "Yep, here's my gold badge. I'm in gold league. I'm a gold ranked modeler in aircraft or overall or something," right? And so even if you haven't built in quite some time, it can sort of be a point of pride, and that can placate people's egos.
Isn't that an interesting concept for egos? So if once you reach master level, you get a little lapel badge that you can wear into the shows and wear around if you want to.
Oh, if you want to look like a complete flog, why not?
Well, that's how it is in the video games, right? Because they will act like whenever you're placed in a match against other players, you'll be able to see what ranking they are.
Yeah. It's like chess. You know exactly where people are ranked in regards to chess masters.
But of course, you're always going to get, some elitism. Like, oh, yeah, sorry, I'm gold league over here, so I don't fraternize with the riffraff down there, and there's a double-edged sword to everything.
Yeah, but those guys usually get crucified online anyway for their actions.
Guys, we're talking about scale models. And
I know.
Exactly. It's not.
Yikes.
This has run away very quickly, hasn't it?
Well, we had some interesting sort of thought bubbles there, and I thought they were certainly worth the discussion. And without having discussions like this, how can you progress forward and reach what our end goal is, which is utopia?
Yes.
You ain't going to get there without having the discussions. Well, and that's why, blogs such as yourself, Christian, what you wrote is really good, because it has that sort of open discussion where people can sort of talk about the concepts and and hopefully sort of resolve some of the issues, perceived or not, that we do have within our hobby to sort of move forward to the end goal.
Well, just quickly, that whole ranking type system was an attempt to merge the two, right? You've got like a GSB and a 1, 2, 3 in one system. Because if you don't have a combined system, then you can only ever have one or the other. And no matter which one you pick, you're always going to have an alternative show that has to pick up the leftovers, so to speak.
Yeah, because my way of thinking also is, you know, you go to these shows and you know as soon as that one person walks through the doors, my first place just disappeared. Yep. So you're pretty confident you're going to get a placing. As soon as you see that guy walk through the door or girl walk through the door, you're going to go, I'm here anyway.
There's a local.
Whereas with the Masters system, that way after a couple of years' time, after this certain person that walked through the door has won, you know they're going to be bumped out of your league, and then you're trying to shine.
Are you already coining the term Masters system?
Yes,
because you consider yourself the inventor of it in the last 20 minutes.
Mate,
we've been talking about this.
I'd say probably that's been spoken about for the last 20, 30 years.
And they do have a Masters in amps. As I said, amps do have this already in place.
Yeah.
So, Chris, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Well, just to go back to the master system really briefly, when I first started competing, when I first started entering models in a competition, a local one, there was a guy there, and he was world level. His name was Randy Lutz.
Yeah, I heard of him.
Show up, and everyone would just sort of roll their eyes and okay, here we go. But the day that I finished second after him, to me, that was a win.
Yeah, that was
like, I'm never going to beat that guy, but look, I finished second. That was awesome. Final thoughts. Guys, thanks so much for having me on your show. This has been such a fun experience. Like I said, I've been listening to you guys for a long time. If I could plug one thing about the website, I was able to secure a giveaway. So a few months ago, I built one of these 3D engines. It was a high bypass turbofan working engine. You've seen them online.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
The company asked me to do it, and then they sponsored it. But now they came back, and so I'm going to be giving one of these away. It's a pretty nice kit. So by the time I guess this thing airs, you'll have more detail. But whatever you do, come on over to modelairplanemaker.com. You get all the info, and you can enter to win one of these engines, and they'll deliver it. They told me anywhere on the planet, so it doesn't matter where you live.
And of course, people can find all this information where, and how do they find you, Chris?
So they'll find me at modelairplanemaker.com. I also have a YouTube video or YouTube channel, just Model Airplane Maker, and there's also a group that I administer on Facebook called Model Airplane Makers, and if you, I'd love to see people join up there and show everyone what they're doing, what they're building. And
I encourage everybody to sort of pop across, and it's weird how you sort of it's almost you're mirroring some of our thoughts in some of your other blogs, because you've got one there, the bases complete the look, which is something that I've sort of decided to do is my thing for this year. Make sure that the models I finish are placed on bases. And also you got another one there, blog about damn the results, enjoy the hobby.
Well, that's what we're here
for. Which thinking to a recent Moosearoo Cup issue, I think it's something we should take on board.
I heard about this. I heard that someone deep sixed a model. Is that true?
Oh yeah. Yes. That's okay. Look, Julian's a past winner of the Moosearoo Cup, so we can't.
Yeah, I've got laurels to rest on.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think in terms of Moosearoo, he's a master, wouldn't it?
That's it.
Almost.
Very true.
Almost.
Master at putting things in the bin, that's for sure.
Chris, it's been wonderful having you on the show.
Yes.
And as I said, I encourage everybody to pop across and have a look at the modelairplanemaker.com. And we hope to have you back on the show again soon, Chris.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I'd love to. To.
No worries, mate. Thanks very much. Well, it was a fantastic conversation, very thought-provoking that we had with Chris.
Yeah, he's a great guy, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, nice guy. He's got a fantastic page too, so again, it might sound like I'm pushing the barrow, but go to modelairplanemaker.com because there's some fantastic content there.
Totally agree.
Some great videos, great blogs, and he's not a bad guy. So, let's have a look at listener mail. But before we do that, what caught your eye?
Well, I was in my local hobby shop the other day, the Hobby Man at Fountain Gate, and they're doing beginners courses, which I think is a wonderful idea.
Terrific.
So their first one's on the wonderful world of paints.
Yep.
Where they're going to be teaching beginners the paint basics, water, oil, solvents, paint finishes from flat to gloss, how to thin your paints, what paint to use in various applications and so forth. And I think it's a great idea because it's going to hopefully bring more younger people into the hobby. It starts on the 6th of April at 4 p.m. at the Hobby Man, which is the hobby shop there at Fountain Gate.
Yep.
So anyone local in the area that is keen and wants to hone their skills, if you're a beginner, pop on in. And you'll be definitely made welcome, and it'll be a good experience for you.
Very good. Julian, you got anything that caught your eye?
Sort of. So what happened was I had a family event that I had to do on last weekend, and sort of like a family friend was there. Like sort of like a family friend is like my family was friends with their family, and their son was friends with me at the time, and he was always that kid who had everything because he was an only child, right? He had the Nintendos and I had nothing, and he got into Warhammer as a kid because even back then it was probably quite expensive, but his parents were quite happy to take him because also he lived in Ringwood.
That helps.
Right?
That helps
so
a lot.
like that's, if you know Melbourne, that's where Warhammer was based out of in Melbourne. Like I don't know what it was about that. Even to this day, like the House of War and everything is up there, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what he really got into it. And I bumped into him there. Hadn't seen him in years, and he showed me he got back into it during COVID, and he's at a really high level.
Oh, okay.
I was really blown away. Like his work is very much in the style of like that you see on the box art of the Warhammer stuff. You know, the heavy metal
look.
Yeah, the heavy metal style. Yeah, and he does really good work. Really, cool. really good work. Turns out he's a member of a sort of club type thing. There's this game arena, which I'm assuming is like a wargaming arena type place in Coburg, I think it is. And they have is it like Melbourne figure painters?
Melbourne figure painters collective. Yes,
which you can find on Instagram. They've got a page there, and they do monthly, I believe, mates. It's all up on their Instagram page, so go look them up if you're in Melbourne and you want to learn how to paint figures to a good standard,
to a heavy metal standard.
Well, for him at least, I think they just they do everything. I think they do all sorts of busts and things like that. It's all the same wheelhouse, isn't it?
It's really cool discovering these little groups that we didn't know existed before.
Yes.
It's like finding a gold nugget somewhere as you're walking out in the bush.
Yes,
I can't understand. Like his stuff was genuinely good, and it's so weird to just bump into someone, right, that you used to know, and they're like at a very high skill level like that. It's just like, what?
Where'd you pull that out of?
Yeah, that's like that's just so out there. I mean, I always knew he was into like painting this stuff as a kid, but to me, I mean, like there's like that wall in figure painting that you have to sort of get past.
Yes,
where once you're on the other side of like things are just like go up exponentially, like in terms of like finish and skill and blending and all that sort of stuff. It's like, yeah, he's definitely on the other side of that wall, and I'm definitely on this side of it.
That's awesome.
The just fill in the things side of things and throw washes on.
Yes,
crap.
Yes.
Well, what caught my eye is obviously the Horizon Models Atlas Agena rocket, which is now out and available. And I know that I've got one coming in the mail from Mercury Models, but I couldn't wait, and I went out and bought another one, which I've started building already. And it's going to be a tall model when it's finished. It's going to stand at about 460 millimeters, I want to say, just sort of shy of half a meter. So it's going to be
taller cabinets, Dave.
Well, it's funny because we had an impromptu Zoom meeting with all the club members last night, or those who wanted to come along, and I was talking about, and I realised it won't fit in my cabinet. I've got to take one of the shelves out to make it fit.
Jeez.
So anyway, first world problem.
Yes.
But that's pretty much all that caught my eye. Oh, apart from the fact that I went and purchased. Geez, I forgot. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about our group build, which is the car models. Now,
part 2.
You two clowns have decided that it's still going to go on, isn't it?
Yeah, it finishes when I finish.
Even though I gave away my kit, you two wouldn't let it go. So you've decided amongst yourselves that there is no end date for it, or what? What's the story?
Well, I'm still waiting for my kit to arrive. I was hoping my kit was going to arrive in the stores this week, but I haven't had the phone call yet.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep it loosey-goosey.
Wow.
Because the DDA XW and XY GTs have been released.
Right.
And seeing Scott from SMS, the finish on his XW GT HO Phase 2, that just blew my mind. Like, the first photo I saw of that, I thought, is that the real car? He's done such a marvellous job on it.
It strikes a good likeness to the real thing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's not bad for a 4-door vehicle, is it, Julian?
Wow. It's not bad. Look, I'm not, when it comes to car models, I don't really give a crap. I mean, I have my, cars that I like, right, in real life, but I don't necessarily build those as models.
Yes.
What I am more interested in is this model a nice model, fun model to build, like nicely engineered, and I also care about, is it a good likeness to the real thing?
Yes.
Because some things just capture the likeness. Especially, you dial in the paint color, things like that, and it just looks like the real thing.
Yep.
And that's one of those kits. It just does it.
Yeah, it just looks amazing. It's just such a nice looking kit.
It's good to have some Aussie muscle cars.
Yeah.
And styrene on the market now. So I ended up dipping my toe back into the group build of building a car.
All right.
And
I need to sound so off.
I have purchased through, many thanks to Paul, a listener, Paul Dorval. Sorry, Paul, if I pronounced your name wrong. Anyway, he had an Ebro 120 scale Brabham BT18 Honda F2 kit, which I pretty much, he gave it away to me for almost nothing, to tell you the truth. I mean, I didn't realise how good. And Julian, of course, was dribbling and drooling when he saw it because he reckons it's a darn good kit. So I'm going to be doing the Jack Brabham B18 Honda.
There's some very innovative engineering that's in that kit.
Well, I'm looking forward to building it. So,
and it's an Australian subject.
But yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? There you go.
You know, I don't think Jack Brabham is as
Sir Jack Brabham.
Sir Jack Brabham.
Thank you.
I don't think he's very well known in Australia anymore compared to how well known he is overseas.
I think within motoring circles, he's still the legend that he always was.
But I mean, I think there's a lot of younger car enthusiasts who've never heard of him. That's overseas would. I think he carries more notoriety outside of Australia than he does within it for some very strange reason.
Tall poppy syndrome, maybe, who knows? But
I'm not sure.
He was a brilliant driver and
car designer.
Oh, absolutely everything. Yeah, all rounder. So, all right.
Well, I mean, that's the best part of it. He wasn't just it wasn't just a driver. He was an engineer.
Yeah.
So when you buy a model kit of one of his cars, there's that extra sort of provenance to it.
Exactly. Totally agree.
Let's dive into
mailbag.
some listener mail. And, of course, you can write to us anytime you want. It is onthebench64@gmail.com. Our first email comes from Eugene Suda, who writes, "Hello, David, Podfather, Ian and Julian. I will not take your advice, David, not that adventurous, by placing my model in the washing machine. But I will take Ian's advice just to wash it in tap water, and also Julian's advice just to use a Tamiya anti-static brush. Thanks for the banter on the subject." That's Eugene from IPMS McKinstry Chapter. Thanks, mate.
Cool.
Very appreciate it.
Put it in the washing machine.
No, I said the dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
Because you've got the little cradles you can sit it in and it won't move.
I still wouldn't trust it.
You can put it on the cold cycle.
I still wouldn't trust it because you're still going to have. You're not going to have.
You know what will
You're going to
happen?
be seeing it while it's getting
Water's going to
washed.
get trapped in like parts of that model that you'll never be able to
You'll
get out of,
yeah.
and you'll be able to hear that sloshing sound when you.
And it's going to get knocked around in the cradle by when the jets go around.
I'm just saying, these guys, Eugene, you're not brave. And speaking of not brave,
Yeah, good on you.
Ian Jezard writes in, "Hi guys, or should I say g'day from the UK. My model making story, like most, is I have been making models first as a kid in the 70s and started again in the late 80s, making mostly military rally cars and painting figures. I really enjoy the podcast. After hearing James and Malcolm on Just Making Conversation Pod, recommend the three of you." Oh, thank you very much. "And catching up on past episodes while driving to work, although probably not in the correct order. It's good to hear you all take this hobby of ours not too seriously, as life is too short not to. Episode 183, listening to Dave's possum story had me laughing out loud, and living in the UK, I don't even know what a possum is."
It's like a large rat that can climb trees.
Yeah.
Well, it primarily climbs trees. It doesn't like to walk on the ground.
I think it's a marsupial too.
It is a marsupial.
Yeah.
It is, but if you want to sort of describe it, it's like somewhere like a large. It's like a cat-sized rat ferret.
A rat ferret.
Well, just to educate our listeners as to what a marsupial is, it's any animal that has a pouch.
Carries its young in a pouch.
Yes. Yeah. Ian continues on. "Then advising someone to put his ship hull in the washing machine made me laugh so much I struggled to keep hold of my steering wheel and drifted across 2 lanes of the motorway. No. Disaster was narrowly avoided, so now I'll have both hands firmly on the wheel while listening to you three. Keep up the good work and best wishes and happy and successful modelling, Ian Jezard." Somewhere in the UK, hopefully driving in the lanes without swerving.
Dave, I really think you should take your own advice and take one for the team and
put it in the dishwasher.
Put one of your moles in the dishwasher.
Yeah. You know what?
He's going to do it.
I'm going to take that darn challenge. I'm going to find a model that... Does it have to be painted or not painted?
That's up to you, dude. No, I think you need to do it painted because it has to be painted because otherwise how can you tell if the jets and stuff hasn't washed the paint right off the plastic?
Yes.
Done. All right, I'm going to do it.
Which one are you going to do it? Like some
Echo wash or glasses wash? You don't care.
I don't know. Just figure it out.
I will. Okay. I'm going to take up the challenge.
I can put it on pasta dish settings.
You know what? I might put it in and I might get this awesome effect that nobody else has discovered for the paintwork and it becomes a new thing.
Yes.
I might be like the person who discovered using floor polish works on models, apparently.
Yes. Okay.
I think
I'll wait and see.
I think that might be the case. I think you might be able to, find another bad idea.
I might even do some videos before and after.
There you go. Do that.
I'm getting excited about this.
What are you going to put in it? What are you going to put?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you have a model that you don't care enough about?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah?
I've got a Space Marines rhino that I might pop in.
Okay.
I thought we'll put one of your ship models in. Really test it out.
I care about all my ship models though. No, I might.
Well, how are you going to? Well, then you're not really that convincing.
The rhino's painted.
It doesn't matter. If you are that confident it's going to work, you should.
Oh, don't worry about it. Just
put a really good model in there.
Anything that you put in is more than anyone else is willing to put in.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if dishwashers get grease off your dishes, it's going to be interesting. Oh, should I put rinse aid in?
You're complicating this. Just get it in there.
Okay. All right. Tim Cavalier writes in, evening, Dave. Just a note to say episode 183 is awesome. It spanned the range of emotions from sadness to funny to nail-biting. I was sad to hear about this continuation of the Falcon, but can understand he's needing a break. Just in case you're stuck, here's what caught my fancy and resulted in purchases. Number 1, Bandai's Spirit's Star Wars Starfighter, which is in 1/72nd scale, purchased at 40% off for a mere $22.
Ooh.
That's a steal. Item 2, ICM Mini Sub Molsh, which is the SO19. And number 3, the Tamiya 260 120 scale F1 car model kit, the John Player Team Lotus Type 79 and 78, which was driven by M. Andretti.
Mario Andretti.
The issue with that there is you can't have the smoking stuff on because they've taken all off the decals now.
Oh, even with the overseas kids?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So that sucks.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
that sucks.
the last kid I blame on Ian and Julian and you for that matter when you decided to junk the foose and go for a Formula One race car. Your excitement was so contagious that I had to pause the episode and order one from Hong Kong. I'm not normally a car modeler, but this one looked too sweet to pass up. As for the Possum War, I have to say that I saw that one coming. Hopefully the Battle of the Backyard, well, that's a good name for it, the Battle of the Backyard.
Battle of the Backyard.
Hopefully the Battle of the Backyard goes a bit better than it has so far. I'm curious, what kind of trees are you protecting? Oh, I'll tell you, silver birch and ornamental pear trees. Anyway, good luck with the mothballs. No, that's not happening. And I look forward to hearing another possum victory. Whoops, did I say that out loud? Did you say Caddyshack?
Yes, I can see it. I can see it dropping to that.
I could see you dressed in like one of those sort of golf outfits.
Do you get the picture of Caddyshack where the little gopher's sort of doing that little dance?
Yeah.
You know what? I could totally see Dave as like a
the Bill Murray character.
As any of the characters in Caddyshack, you know, like as like a side character, like an extra.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Like golfer number 3 on the green, you know.
Oh, God. A final sorrow song of the episode resulted in me buying a mini desk vacuum. Thanks, guys, for breaking my wallet.
They're not that expensive.
Yeah, they're pretty.
He did a wink by it. Anyway, so that's from Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, awesome dude. Let's see. The next one. Stuart Rolfe writes in, "Hi, Dave. Given your war with a local possum is ongoing, I thought I'd share something I came across today that might be benefit of you. In our local Bunnings store, which is like a
Home Depot.
Home Depot, Lowe's, yeah.
yeah.
There's a DIY section in there to control possums. I tried that. None of that sort of worked. So I'm moving on to the electronic version now. But cheekily, he also posted there's a flora and fauna decorative possum travel mug, which I could purchase to perhaps remind me of my losses during this round of the Battle for the Backyard.
Battle for the Backyard.
Gee, thanks, Stuart. And we'll actually be talking to Stuart in the near future. He does a wonderful little YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we're going to catch up with him on the show soon. So
that sounds good.
It'll be really cool. All right, thanks for that. And, look, Tim wrote in again. I think he did a bit of a wink. David and Julian, given the modelling sanity guys have brought in a last-minute ringer, I would like to offer my Moosearoo build-along as a stand-in to represent the OTB. I'm sure that precedent for making me a in-the-field representative, much like the plastic model Mojo's rank-and-file pre-Nats agents, will work to pull one over the Hamilton guys, he says with a wink. I offer my humble services in the name of the podfather, Ian, and the other host.
Oh,
burn! No. I think it's a reference to like, you know, name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit thing. You know.
Okay.
Instead of Holy Ghost, the other host. You know.
But I must say,
he's done a stunning
Tim's
job. rendering
of the Moosearoo Cup that he built along.
Yeah, it's very good.
Is really good. It's like a broken down, rusted wreck.
Yeah, it's been sitting there in the paddock for a while. Looks great. Great job, Tim.
Very cool.
Really impressed.
All right, don't forget you can send your emails into us at onthebench64@gmail.com. We love hearing what you guys have to say. And I think that now brings us to the close of the show. So, Ian.
Well, I'm going to head home. Might even, I think I've got about 3 pieces left to clean up on the Nakajima Dave float plane. So I might do a bit of work on that over the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, just have a relaxing week and so forth. So everyone, thanks for listening. Enjoy the hobby, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Julian, what have you got to say as a sign off?
Not very little, you know me.
Well, now the Moosearoo Cup is off your. The albatross is not around your neck anymore.
I'll be able to finish some models, I think.
Yeah.
So I got roped into another group build of such sorts, and so I'll probably be building a Datsun 1600, which I believe in the US is what's that, Datsun 510, I think it is.
Very cool.
Little 4-door sedan kind of thing.
What's that group build? Who's that with?
That is our model club's group build.
Oh yes, of course it is. Yeah. I forgot about that. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. I could have built one of the Datsun 240Z that I've got, but I've already started that, and it's currently kind of sticky with all the sort of resin and stuff on it from when I washed paint off it because I had to strip the model.
Oh right, yep.
So I was like, I don't feel like dealing with that right now.
Fair enough. All right, well, thanks very much for listening. And don't forget, there are other fantastic model podcast shows out there. Simply go to modelpodcast.com and it will give you the full listing of scale modeling podcasts from around the world. And it's generously hosted by Stuart from the Scale Model Podcast in Canada. And also, it's a couple of great little blogs there for you to have a look at as well. We'll be back in a fortnight. So until then, adios.